Broadcasting live from the highest cloud of privileged patriotism. The PC Radio Show is on Mojo 50 Radio.
And it is Friday on the Patriotically Correct Radio Show. What's going on? My name is Stu. That guy right over there, that ruggedly good-looking and handsome man, that is Richard Leonard, PC Radio, always in relentless pursuit of the truth and facts. No censorship is going to be tolerated here on this particular program. If you're listening to us on Mojo 50, that means that you're on the iHeartRadio, and we thank you for being here. We are also broadcasting live on the Facebooks, of course. We're on the Twitter's hemisphere. We're on YouTube all the time. We do have an Instagram account. If you're watching the scroller up here, right at the top of the screen, you'll see our handles. You'll see our, all the places that you can find us. But if you are watching us live, that means that you're probably watching us on the OpsLens app. And if you're not, boy, am I sorry about that. If you don't have the OpsLens app yet, you got to get over there and get it. Let me tell you about the OpsLens app. The OpsLens app gives you the opportunity to communicate directly to us. You can give us your inside story. We could even feature your videos that you record and send to us at the PC Radio Show. There's a little icon for us. You can record yourself. You can record your family. You could break news that the media is not showing us, because we all know damn well that the media does not show us any of the real news that's going on. They have the agenda-driven media news propaganda machine for the progressive wing of our government, Richard.
You are the media, people. You take over.
That's right.
Show us what's really going on.
We're seeing a lot more independent journalism going on now, and the OpsLens app is exactly that. There will be no censorship, 100% truth and facts. As a matter of fact, speaking of censorship, I want to talk about this. I put up a meme. Actually, I think what I did is I shared a meme that was posted to the Mojo 50 Facebook page just the other day, and it was a meme about, and it's been circulating, and it was it's got Kamala Harris's picture on it, and it's talking about how she said that she smoked weed, right, when she was in college, and that she smoked weed while she was listening to Tupac and Snoop, right? I think I actually have the meme here. Here it is, yeah. Kamala Harris says she smoked weed in college while listening to Tupac and Snoop. She graduated in 1986. Snoop's first album was in 93. Tupac's first album was in 91. So if you do the math, that means that she would have been 7 years old while she was smoking weed and going to college. Okay, so this is obviously, that's what the whole meme is about. That's what makes it funny, is that Kamala Harris, again, is lying, because that's what these radical progressives do. They will literally stop at nothing. They will say anything shamefully, and then just move on like it didn't even exist. I don't know if they don't know that there's recording devices present when they say these things, if they forget that there's cameras and if they're doing radio interviews, or what the deal is. But Richard, they shamelessly will say a total lie, and then when confronted about it, they'll say, oh, no, I never said that, and then move on to the next thing.
Well, yesterday while we were working, you had made the comment that they must think that we're stupid, because they're not dumb. They know that there's recording devices, and they will blatantly lie and put it right out there in the public, and people just eat it up.
They'll eat it right up. Yes,
absolutely.
And we saw, what happened is then my thing gets censored. Facebook fact checkers said that this could be misleading. What's misleading about it? She said it. She said, I smoked pot, I inhaled. Right? Okay, yep. No big deal. I don't care. As a voter, I don't really care.
Join the party.
Yeah, and so she said it. That's fine. She said that she listened to Tupac and Snoop. Well, who hasn't? I mean, Tupac is literally one of the best, if not the best, of all time in the hip hop and rap game. Snoop is an icon. I mean, Doggy Style was probably one of my favorite albums when I was growing up. I listened to that thing over and over again. Gin and Juice, come on, man. Lottie Dottie, we likes to party, We don't cause trouble. We don't bother nobody. And so here we are on the mic, and we're talking about, this censorship that won't, by the way, happen on the OpsLens app. So anyway, the fact checkers check me and check Mojo 50 and everybody else who has shared this thing, as this is misleading information. Well, so what part about it is misleading? We know that it's not misleading that she said that she smoked pot, because she did say that. We know that it's not misleading that she said that she listened to Pac and Snoop, because she said that. We know that it's not misleading that she said that she did it while she was in college, because she said that. So what part of it is misleading? Well, when you go in there and you look at find the reason why or whatever, and you have to navigate through all this stuff where Facebook tells you why they checked you and why they're shutting your shit down. They say, well, because she never said that she did it in college. So, of course, I mean, everything with the click of a mouse. Here, let's just listen. This is Kamala Harris, and she's on the Breakfast Club. This is from February 11th, 2019, and let's just listen here real quick.
We have incarcerated so many, in particular young men and young men of color,
okay,
in a way that we have not for the same level of use other young men. And we've got to deal with that, in addition to dealing with the fact that not all drugs are the same. And when we're talking about marijuana, look, I have forever been an advocate for medicinal marijuana.
Here we go.
I have personally known people who only benefited from its use. So there are a lot of reasons why we need to legalize.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay.
Like in
And
college,
I inhaled. I did inhale.
Okay, so we heard that, right? Yep. She said she smoked and that she did inhale. Okay, so that's fact number one. We've got that. She smoked and she did inhale. No big deal. Again, I don't care about that. Let's continue. Okay.
It was a long time ago. But yes.
I know you have to go. They say you have to go.
I just broke news.
I mean, was it in college? See, I like stuff like that. That's a real honest answer.
Wait. What did she say? He said real quick, he said, was that in college?
I have forever been an advocate for medicinal marijuana.
Okay, let's one more time.
I have personally known people who only benefited from its use.
Okay, let's just watch her say
So
this.
there are a lot of reasons why we need to.
Because they'll say, "Oh no, that wasn't really her."
I have.
Okay. Like in
And
college,
I inhaled. I did inhale.
Okay.
It was a long time ago. But yes.
I know you have to go. They say you have to go.
I just broke news.
I mean, was it in college? See, I like stuff.
Oh, there it is. Was that in college? Okay. And so then I guess the argument becomes that then I don't know if this thing is that she maybe they're fact checking me because she didn't listen to Snoop. I don't know. I think we have something like that here.
Get this or you will get this. It
let's
was
just
a
see.
high pressure battle that we won. But that's my history with
What
banks.
do you listen to? Because I know she has to go. So what does Kamala Harris listen to?
Okay.
What were you
What's your
listening to when
favorite-
you was high? What was on? What song was
Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, definitely Snoop. Tupac for sure. For
What do you listen to
sure.
now? What's your
All
favorite
right.
hip hop artist now?
So this is what I mean. And so Facebook is clearly in the tank. Let me get rid of that mouse for these people. And they just shamelessly will tell you that this is not true. Like we're just a bunch of idiots, Rich. I mean, this is a simple YouTube search of Kamala Harris Breakfast Club is what I put into YouTube. Because you did your diligence. And how long did it take you to figure out the actual truth yesterday when we were talking about this?
About 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
And
It's pretty easy to find.
And so it's shameless. And these people, they have no problems lying. A bunch of lies also last night. And so there you go. I was censored for telling the truth. Which I will never be censored on the OpsLens app. So make sure that you get over there, download the OpsLens app. You send us your stories. We'll make sure that your real news breaks and that nobody will censor us. I mean, we're broadcasting to like hundreds of millions of people here. So we have a huge platform. Obviously, everybody knows about the Patriotically Correct Radio Show. PC radio has just blown up to these unbelievable proportions. And so get the OpsLens app. Also, welcome to the iHeart Radio listeners and Mojo 50. Last night, I did not have a chance to watch as Joe Biden gave his speech. But I was able to hear some things. Yeah, we were putting somebody in jail last night. And so we want to listen to a few things here that he was talking about last night and see what he's talking about
Ella
here.
Baker,
all right.
a giant of the civil rights movement, left us with this wisdom. Give people light, and they will find the way. Give people light.
Yeah.
Those are words for our time. The current president has cloaked American darkness for much too long. Too much anger, too much fear, too much division.
Right.
Here and now, I give you my word. If you entrust me with the presidency, I will draw on the best of us, not the worst. I will be an ally of the light, not the darkness. It's time for us, for we the people, to come together.
Who's writing
Make no
this?
mistake. United, we can and will overcome this season of darkness in America.
Yeah. So
We'll choose
he's
hope over fear,
okay.
facts over fiction,
Right.
fairness over privilege.
Yeah. So he's telling us here that America is just a real cesspool, right? I mean, we're all racist. America's dark. The president is full of division and hate and anger. What have these people been for the last 4 years? They've been nothing but angry and hateful. I mean, the whole platform that they have here is nothing about what they're going to do. And if it was about what he's actually going to do, then why hasn't anybody in the media, these real journalists, asked him flat out, okay, if you're going to do all these things, what have you done the last 47 years? This guy's been in office for 47 years. Why does anybody not dare to ask him real questions? Why are these people off limits?
I think that is probably the most prolific question that can be asked of any of these career politicians, because every election cycle, there's all these promises about what we're going to do and this horrible state of our country. And usually it's blamed on the president coming from either side, you know, the opposing side. But the question should really be asked, and they should have to answer to it. Where in the hell have you been?
Yeah.
And what are you doing?
I mean, and it's one thing if somebody's been, and you're speaking from experience. We don't have to say who here, but you worked in a congressman's office as part of, what was that, part of an internship or something? It was Nancy Pelosi's project, and it's still going on. It's called the Wounded Warrior Program, not the project. Let's not be confused by those two. But they give wounded veterans or disabled veterans a 2-year fellowship with a member of Congress. Oh, great. That was awesome, I'm sure. So you're in there working with a U.S. congressman, and so you've got experience. You know what's actually really going on, and 47 years is a really long time. 47 years. Not to mention 8 of those years were spent as the vice president for the first duly elected black man, African-American president in the history of our world, which was, if nothing else, is a testament to the fact that we are not a systemically racist nation, then I don't know what is, because that is. And not only was he elected once, but he was reelected. Okay, so we voted for a black guy twice, all right, because America thought that he was the most qualified person. Joe Biden is a racist. And we know this because Joe Biden, when he originally threw his hat into the ring to try to get the nomination for the Democratic Party, one of the things that he said, one of his campaign promises, and his most prolific, biggest talking point, was that he was going to hire a black woman as the vice president. Not the most qualified person, not a person who he thinks can really help turn around these things and his big issues, not any of that. He was going to hire a woman, and she was going to be black. And he didn't. He lied again because she's not a black woman. She's a Jamaican woman and an Indian woman, right? So she's not African American. And when she tells you that she is, she's lying. And when he tells you that he was going to hire a black woman for the vice president, he's lying too. It's Freestyle Friday. By the way, the phone lines are open. 1-877-45-WARRIOR, 877-45-WARRIOR. You can also hit us up on Twitter at Correct Radio. Let's listen to a little bit more of this here.
I'm a proud Democrat.
If we can take it.
And I'll be proud to carry the banner of our party into the general election. So it's with great honor and humility, I accept this nomination for President of the United States of America.
All right.
Fantastic.
Yes.
But while I'll be a Democratic candidate, I will be an American president. I'll work hard for those who didn't support me, as hard for them as I did for those who did vote for me. That's the job of a president.
Yeah, and that's the job.
All of us.
Okay, and that represent all of us. I'll work as hard for the people who didn't vote for me. Okay, if nothing else is a testament to Donald Trump, and like I said, I'm not a torch carrier for every single thing Donald Trump, but you cannot deny what the guy has done, Rich.
Absolutely.
And in the history of our country, there has not been a president that has been better for black people. And black people don't vote for Republicans. Black people, as a general rule, the Democratic Party has always been able to rely on black people because they keep them enslaved. The proverbial Democratic plantation. It's a real thing. Go Google it. Just look at it. Look at the history of our presidencies and look at the number of black votes that Democrat candidates get. And the Democrats that are running every single major city across our country have failed them miserably by keeping these people in the ghetto, keeping them locked up in entitlements, keeping them broke, keeping them without schools, keeping them without education, no opportunity for college. And every single one of these cities that's burning, that's on fire, where you see these ghettos, like we saw with Kim Klacik, okay? She walked the streets of Baltimore. She showed us what's going on there. And this is a city that's been democratically run for decades. Same with Minneapolis. Same with Los Angeles. Same with Pittsburgh. The list goes on. Houston, Baltimore, we covered Baltimore, Portland, Seattle. Every city, it's not a coincidence that every city that is literally burning has been run by Democrats. But what he's saying here is that he'll work just as hardly for those that didn't vote for him, or just as hard, ding, 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 as the people who did. So I don't understand how that's a thing against the president of the United States, because if you fact check this, nobody's been better for people of color, for minorities, and for black people. And don't blame him for those cages, by the way, either, on the southern border, because Obama's the one that built those cages. He's the one that built those jail cells, and he should be held accountable for it, which, by the way, I don't totally disagree with it.
Not just our base or our party. This is not a partisan moment. This must be an American moment.
Yeah.
It's a moment that calls for hope and light and love. Hope for our future. Light to see our way forward, and love for one another. America isn't just a collection of clashing interests of red states or blue states. We're so much bigger than that. We're so much better than that. Nearly a century ago, Franklin Roosevelt pledged a New Deal in a time of massive unemployment, uncertainty, and fear. Stricken by a disease, stricken by a virus, FDR insisted that he would recover and prevail, and he believed America could as well. And he did, and we can as well.
All right.
This campaign isn't just about winning votes. It's about winning the heart and, yes, the soul of America. Winning it for the generous among us, not the selfish.
Okay.
Winning it for workers who keep this country going, not just the privileged few at the top. Winning it for those communities who have known the injustice of a knee on the neck.
Okay, so obviously here he goes with the analogy about George Floyd and the knee on the neck, and here's where I'm sure, no doubt, he's going to start talking about the systemic racism in our
all the young people
hellhole country that we live in here.
Only America being rising inequity and shrinking opportunity. They deserve the experience of America's promise.
Okay.
They deserve to experience it in full. No generation ever knows what history will ask of it. All we can ever know is whether we're ready when that moment arrives.
Who wrote this?
And now history has delivered us to one of the most difficult moments America's ever faced. Four historic crises, all at the same time. A perfect storm.
Yeah, the
worst
storm you
pandemic
want.
in over 100 years. The worst economic crisis since the Great Depression.
Really?
The most compelling call for racial justice since the 60s.
Has he been watching the
and
stock
the
market?
undeniable realities
Apparently
and just the accelerating threats of climate change.
Oh, my goodness.
So the question for us is simple. Are we ready? I believe we are. We must be. All elections are important. We know in our bones this one is more consequential.
That's right. We sure do.
As many have said, America is at an inflection point, a time of real peril, but also of extraordinary possibilities. We can choose a path of becoming angrier, less hopeful, more divided, a path of shadow and suspicion, or we can choose a different path and together take this chance to heal, to reform, to unite. A path of hope and light. This is a life-changing election. This will determine what America is going to look like for a long, long time. Character is on the ballot. compassion is on the ballot.
All right. You know what?
Decency.
I can't take it anymore. And I can't put our listeners through this anymore. Phone lines are open, 1-877-45-WARRIOR. Just want to see if anybody has any comments on this. We do have somebody on the phone here, I believe. I'm going to go to the phone lines now. This is the PC Radio Show. Hello.
Hey, let me talk to Stu.
Yeah, that's me speaking. What's up?
Hey, Stu, what's up? Brucey from Lakeville.
Hey, Bruce. How's it going?
Oh,
Hey, man. Hey, you got Robert with you today?
Robert, I got Richard on.
Yeah, like I said, Robert. He's a good-looking man. I saw him on the Op Lens app.
Oh,
good-looking man.
Yeah, well, you're a smart guy for downloading that thing. What can we do for
Absolutely.
you? It's Freestyle Friday. Do you got something on your mind, Brucey?
I got something on my mind, Stu Peters.
Okay.
So you strike me as you might be kind of a sports guy.
I am, yes.
Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Okay. So my thought is that, hey, Robert, you a sports guy too?
absolutely.
Why are
Okay,
you Robert?
You don't get this good
So,
looking as a Nigerian Jew by not being a sports guy.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, you know.
That's racist.
So here's my thing, is that as sports fans, do we come back from this? I mean, maybe this is just me, but, you know, I've already checked out on baseball and football just based on, you know, this kneeling and the NBA with the jerseys and, you know, and now that hockey's doing it. You know, I saw that
right.
the Vegas Knights game where a few of them kneeled during the national anthem. And, you know, do we just check out from pro sports now for a while? Are we going to be able to come back, or is this it?
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, Ryan Parisi, you know, he may have the completest off-centers politics in the world. I don't care. As long when he's on the ice, I don't care what his politics are. I like to see him play hockey.
You're talking about Zach Parisi.
Yeah, the Zach guy. Which one? Who's the other guy? The Ryan guy too. You know
Ryan,
what I mean? Like I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't care about the politics. I want to watch the game. And
Right.
when they insert their politics into the game, that takes away from it. Like, is this the point now where we just maybe focus on college and high school sports and we just kind of ditch the pros, or do you think we'll be able to come back from this?
When you have somebody in office, like the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who has never been in politics before being elected to the highest politically held office in the free world, the guy who's not a career politician, who I refer to as the human Molotov cocktail that was designed to throw into the system and blow up this whole thing of corruption. The guy ran on draining the swamp. He's going in there. He's doing exactly that. He's got Supreme Court justices and the threat of possibly one or maybe even two more should he be reelected. He's appointed hundreds of judges to federal courts across the country in primarily Democratic strongholds. They hate him. They hate him to death, and the media gets behind this stuff. And the people of Hollywood and the people of professional sports, they must be really stupid or gullible or being paid to say these things because they are on board. And we see the evidence of that even in video games that are designed for game consoles like PlayStation and Xbox, where you see the players wearing Black Lives Matter shirts and Black Lives Matter painted all over the courts. They have literally taken over. Black Lives Matter, by the way, not the phrase, because we all agree that Black Lives Matter, Bruce. But what I'm saying is the political party, the growing and most powerful political party in the world right now, the most fundraising is done by Black Lives Matter, who, by the way, the number one contribution that they make with Blue Dot is to the Biden for President campaign. So this isn't necessarily just about pro sports, but yes, I would agree with you. It's disgusting to watch. I don't tune in to watch the Green Bay Packers play a football game so that I can get a political campaign speech. Nor do I don't watch basketball in the first place, maybe some college hoops because those kids still have something to play for and they're not overly overcompensated ghetto criminal thugs that are running around in nightclubs shooting each other in the leg, much similar to the NFL. These guys, if they were not chasing a football, they'd be running from me and Richard. And so, you know, and when I thought that hockey was the last thing that I could hold on to, Bruce, you're right. I'm starting to lose hope in that too. I want you to hang on the line. We're going to bring you back here in just a little bit. I'm up against a hard break here. We got to get some commercials in. We got to get paid for what we do here. PC Radio is on. It's a Friday. It's Freestyle Friday. Again, the phone lines are open. 1-877 1-877-45-WARRIOR. 1-877-45-WARRIOR if you're listening to us on Mojo 50 Radio, iHeartRadio, or watching us on the Opslens app. Stick around. We'll be back shortly. We've got Joe the Cop on today, too. And more from Bruce in our freebie discussion here on Freestyle Friday. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. More PC Radio straight ahead.
We will force votes.
We will not stop.
Any Republican senator is part of the cover-up.
What the
Impeachment.
Impeachment. This is madness.
The PC Radio Show with Stu and Rich. Back in a minute. Attention, liberal snowflakes. Caught you listening again.
Well, you happen to have caught me in a moment of self-pleasure.
Stewie and Richie. The Patriotically Correct Radio Show is on the Warrior Radio Network.
Freestyle Friday is on. Phone lines are open. 1-877-45-WARRIOR. 1-877-45-WARRIOR. Had to go to commercial there to talk about all of the great things that we get paid to talk about. Mojo 50 Radio, iHeartRadio, the Opslens app. We're broadcasting globally, internationally, as well as around the world at thepcradioshow.com. And we had a phone call here from Bruce of Lakeville, Minnesota. And Bruce, sorry that we had to cut you short there. We were talking about professional sports, and yes, I agree with you on that point. I'm basically, if you want me to answer your question in short, I'm probably going to be writing off professional sports for the season. It's really sad, but that's the way it is. And I mean, we cannot escape the political machine of the progressive radicals that have taken over the media. We have a state-sponsored media here who has roofied us, similar to the date rape drug, and we keep being told the same things over and over and over again. And it's kind of like I would compare it to not only the date rape drug, but kind of like hypnotism. Or a really shitty song on the radio. If they play it in regular rotation 5 times an hour over and over again and jam that son of a bitch down your throat, it's got to be a hit. It's got to be good, right? So pretty soon you just start believing the lies, and that's what has us in a position where somebody like Joe Biden can actually be taken seriously in a presidential election, Bruce.
I hear you, Stu. So I got another one to throw at you and Richard right now is... our youth today and this attitude of the cancel culture. Mm-hmm. If our president, our duly elected president, is reelected, how do we go about bringing our kids back from that cancel culture mentality?
What do you mean by cancel culture?
Really?
Well,
if
you don't...
The cancel culture. These are the people that are tearing down statues all over the place. They're canceling our history. They're and it's trickled into the classrooms. You're right, Bruce. A lot of these so-called educators have adopted this theory of social justice in the name of racism and inequality on the most free and equal nation on the face of the planet. And so even our textbooks are being canceled or deleted in these textbooks that objectively depict American history and the reason why we are where we are today and who we are today. Richard, the cancel culture, you've been away too long. You need to study up on this, because that is actually what's overtaking our entire society right now. These are the people that are responsible for starting fires at places like the 3rd Precinct right here in Minneapolis. Antifa is a big movement, mover of this phenomena that is the cancel culture. So the millennial group, if you will, and this is exactly what you get, Bruce, for raising multiple generations of millennial couch potatoes that are basement dwellers in mommy's house that are playing these first-person shooter video games and have nothing to do with their life. They grow up living off the tit of their mom, and then they transfer into the nanny state of the government, which then promises that they'll take care of them again, too. There's no motivation to work anymore because I can make more money living off of the government, and I don't have to do anything. I can sell my food stamps for 50 cents on the dollar, or maybe even a little bit more. Hey, I got $100 worth of food stamps here. Who's going to buy them for 75? And combine that along with the thousands of dollars that I'm getting every month in cash. I'm getting housing assistance. I'm getting free rent, and then plus you've got WIC and you've got food stamp. I mean, you can live for free There's no motivation to work. I don't blame them actually for doing it, Bruce.
That's a great take, Stu. I'm going to carry that one through the day.
All right. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news all the time. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to sit and be I don't want to make our listeners the punching bag of everything bad that's going on here. But we got to face it. There's an imminent feeling of urgency when it comes to what we're dealing with here. And the media has fed into this, and part of that is the war on cops. As I promised, we always get Joe the Cop on Fridays. We're going to give him a call here. There's been some things in the news here recently, and if you just Google police, for example, Google the things that are going on in America right now, there's no secret that there is a war on the police, and there's a castration of the authority of police. We do have Joe the Cop on the phone. I believe he answered, and I hear the clicking going on over there. Joe, are you on?
I'm on.
Okay. We were talking last night, Richard and I, while we were working, about several things that are going on in the police community, and we wanted to get you to weigh in on these. I mean, we had a white Georgia police officer uses a shock weapon. I'm assuming that the media doesn't understand that that's called a neuromuscular incapacitation device, also commonly referred to as the taser, but weapon sounds a lot more shocking. So the headline was, white Georgia police officer uses shock weapon on black woman, faces investigation as video goes viral. There's no doubt that this cop is gonna be cleared of any wrongdoing, but just the sensationalism of white cop, black woman. We've got Lori Lightfoot down in Chicago. She's banned protests around her home. We do have a clip of that actually here. I think we can listen to her talking here.
And I make no apologies whatsoever for that. We are living in very different time, and I've seen the threats that have come in. And I have an obligation to keep my home, my wife, my 12-year-old, and my neighbors safe.
Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown says residential protesting.
Here she is talking about she's making no apologies for banning protests around her house. But, Joe, she doesn't care about protests going on anywhere else in her city. Why the double standard, and how is she able to get away with this?
Well, she's able to get away with this because she is the civilian head of the Chicago Police Department, okay? But the problem here always comes back to this. People in Chicago are mad about the double standard, okay? People in Cook County are mad about the double standard. That she gets protection, but they're on their own. Why do they keep voting her in? Why do they keep voting for liberal Democrats?
It's a great question.
The only way to fix this problem, okay, is to vote them out. But you're not going to be able to vote them out when you look at the constituency. This is what it comes back to every single time. I'm glad that people are getting upset, but getting upset is not enough. All right? So you have to do something. You have to do something else about it.
Mm-hmm.
Either that, or the Chicago Police Department just needs to flat out refuse to provide her with protection because, as we discussed last week, the police are under no legal obligation to provide any person, including the mayor, with special protection. That's the Warren versus D.C. ruling from 1981. They could walk off from there right now. Well, she could hold them in insubordination. She could hold the chief and the superintendent, David Brown, in insubordination. But legally, they wouldn't be able to be held accountable for it.
Joe the Cop joins us every single Friday. We did have you on. We had the honor of having you on actually twice this week now, which is great. We appreciate you making the time for us. We know that you're a 23-year law enforcement veteran who's still working as a cop somewhere in America, and we're not going to say where. Another story that was in the news that I thought was rather interesting, Joe, there's a Washington police officer charged with murdering a man outside of a grocery store. The headline here from the New York Times, a very objective, by the way, liberal rag. They do a really good job of always just telling both sides of the story and remaining neutral. Officer Jeffrey Nelson of the Auburn Police Department was charged under a new state law that makes it easier to hold the police accountable for the unjustified use of deadly force. Are you familiar with this case, Joe?
Yeah, I read about it last night.
Okay. So this new law, there's a new law. Do we know when did this law come into effect?
2018. It was started as Initiative 940. What it was intended to do was remove the good faith and without malice clause of the previous use of deadly force statute for the revised Washington Code. Okay, they introduced this in 2018. There are two cases that prompted them to do this. Okay, one would be the 2009 shooting of John Williams in Seattle by Seattle Police Department officer Ian Burks, and the second would be the shooting of Niles Messervy, a DUI suspect, by Everett Police Department officer Troy Meade. In the case of John Williams, King County prosecutor Dan Satterberg refused to charge Ian Burks because he said that the jury would be inclined and instructed that they couldn't convict him because Ian Burks had acted in good faith and without malice when he shot John Williams. Okay, so that was the criteria. In Snohomish County with Troy Meade, they actually decided, nah, you know what the hell, we're going to try him anyway. We're going to bring him up just based on certain statements that he made, and it took the jury less than 2 hours to find Troy Meade not guilty. Okay. Now, the ironic part in all this is if you know the facts of the John Williams shooting and if you know the facts of the Troy Meade shooting, even if Initiative 940 had been enacted into law back then, as it is now, even if it had been enacted into the statute, these guys still would have been found not guilty. That's the irony of this, that these idiots just don't understand.
I want to talk a little bit more about this case that happened with Nelson here that we're talking about. This is in Washington. This is in a suburb just outside of Seattle, and he was charged, which is a real big shocker there. He was charged on Thursday with murdering a man outside of a grocery store under this new state law. The officer, Jeffrey Nelson, was the first police officer to be charged by prosecutors in King County under the law, which was approved in 2018 by Washington state voters, prosecutors said. So I don't know if this was legislation that was done in the middle of the night. Oftentimes what happens, Joe, and it's no secret to you, that what'll happen is this would be legislation that was meant to deal with something completely different, but then verbiage addressing something totally opposite of that or outside of that will be slipped into these thousands of pages. So the prosecutors can say that this was approved in 2018 by Washington state voters, but it's no secret that Washington state voters may have had absolutely no idea that this language was in the bill if they didn't read the legislation from cover to cover. You're very familiar with the way that works.
Right. And if you put on Niles Messervy's family, to talk about how their father was murdered, okay, and even though that wasn't the truth, even though the Troy Meade was found not guilty and would have been found not guilty even if this law was in effect, okay, that tugs on the heartstrings of voters, and they might just vote for it, or they might just pull this, they just might pull the lever for the straight party every time.
Prosecutors said that Officer Nelson, who's 41 years old, had shot and killed Jesse Saries, 26, while trying to arrest him on a disorderly conduct charge. Oh my God, he shot him for just being disorderly? That's all he was doing, was just being disorderly? Outside of Sunshine Grocery in Auburn, Washington on May 31st of last year, the entire encounter lasted 67 seconds and was captured on nearby surveillance video. Prosecutors said that Officer Nelson needlessly provoked the circumstances that led to Mr. Saries' death. He needlessly provoked. Can you expound on that, please? How did this officer, why in the hell are these cops just running around, Joe, provoking people and then shooting and killing them?
Okay, well, when you read the article by Seattle Times, which, is not pro-police, but when you read the article, okay, with the objective evidence that they've put in there, and it is a good article, okay, it's a thorough article, but whether they intend to or not, they actually make the case for Officer Nelson. Now, this Sayers was... he was under the influence of methamphetamine, I believe.
Weird.
He was kicking vehicles, okay? He was trying to damage buildings. And, Officer Nelson, being a police officer, decided to take him into custody. Now,
I mean, that seems right, Richard. Would you agree, Richard, that if somebody's kicking your truck and throwing things at buildings and running around as an emotionally disturbed person, that he needs to be contacted by police? Is that unreasonable, Richard?
I would say it's not unreasonable, and I probably would take him into custody as well for my safety as well as his until everything was figured out. Yes.
Okay, and go ahead, Joe. Continue.
Well, so now what we say is they're saying that he did not attempt to de-escalate and he did not follow training by waiting for backup. Now, with this new Initiative 940 that's been codified into law, it says that de-escalation training is part of it, is part of what police officers in the state of Washington must do.
Yep, they do it in a lot of states. They do it here in Minnesota as well. It's called the Minnesota Crisis Intervention Team. So it doesn't state the extent of it. It just says they get de-escalation training. Sure.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
How do I de-escalate with a violent suspect? You can't be done. Okay. He is a police officer. Whether his training, his policies say something else, as a police officer at the scene, we trust the police officer to make the decision if he can take this guy into custody on his own. In many cases, I've intended to wait until another officer got on scene, and because of what was unfolding in front of me, I could not wait, and I had to act on my own and make the arrest. That is all that Officer Nelson did. Now, they're saying the struggle ensued, and then Officer Nelson was injured in the struggle, and now Sheriff was fatally shot. Listen, we don't have the body camera footage yet.
Right.
So unless you show me the body camera footage that shows that Officer Nelson lied in his report, okay, and I don't think that he did based on what I'm reading here, but unless you could show me that, they've actually made the case for him. Mm-hmm. Now you have this use of force expert Jeffrey Noble that said he reviewed the body camera footage, and Jeffrey Noble is now saying that it was inconsistent with what was in Officer Nelson's report. It wasn't reasonable. Jeffrey Noble frequently testifies against the police, okay? He testified in two major cases, okay? One would be he testified against Officer Keith Sandy and Dominic Perez of the Albuquerque Police Department for the fatal shooting of James Boyd back in 2014. The jury did not convict the officers in that case. And if you watch the James Boyd video, you will see that it was clear-cut. They had no other choice but to shoot him. He was waving knives at the canine officer in an elevated position on a hill, okay? But that was Jeffrey Noble's testimony that it wasn't a reasonable shooting. The jury, 9-3, voted not guilty, okay? 9-3. There was 3 holdouts for whatever reason. When the new district attorney of Bernalillo County came in, they said there's no way we can get a conviction. They dropped the case against him. The next case that I know of that Jeffrey Noble testified against, you might have heard of it. It was the trial of Geronimo Yanez.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he testified that Officer Yanez was not legally justified when he shot Philando Castillo, an armed motorist who wasn't complying, who was under the influence of drugs.
For those of you who don't know about this story, this happened here. So Richard and I have we've been exposed to ongoing media cover. I mean, it was a media blowout for several months. Yanez was charged with the murder of Philando Castillo in St. Anthony, Minnesota. Castillo told Yanez that he had a gun, claimed to be a permit holder. Yanez repeatedly told him, don't reach for it, don't reach for it, don't reach for it. He reached for it. He got shot. There was a long trial. Yanez was cleared of any wrongdoing and so on and so forth. So this guy, he was
found not guilty. So the common denominator here would be Jeffrey Noble. Okay?
Right.
The common denominator is Jeffrey Noble. He frequently, puts himself in a position to testify against the police. In the couple of cases that I've seen, he has been wrong. It did not result in a conviction. All right. So this guy doesn't have any credibility with me. I would like to see the body camera footage, and I have a feeling that nothing's really going to change my mind on this, okay, unless you show me this guy outright perjured himself in a report, in a sworn statement. Mm-hmm. It's not going to change my mind. You have a suspect who is acting violently under the influence of methamphetamine. You cannot. Have you ever tried to reason? I mean, you're a fugitive hunter. Have you ever tried to reason with a person who is in the midst of a bipolar crisis?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And how often was it successful that you were able to reason with that person?
0.
Not often.
Okay. I've had times where it worked, and I had times where I was as nice as could be, and it just turned violent. Okay. Mm-hmm. It turned into a violent arrest. In the times that it worked, I can tell you this: it did not. It had nothing to do with skill on my part. It was called luck.
Mm-hmm.
The person just decided to comply. Now, you try to reason with the person, and when you don't even have to reason with the person who is committing a crime. Okay, let's just start that. Let's just, go with that right now. I do not have to reason with somebody who's being violent. Am I under any legal obligation to calm a guy down who is attacking vehicles?
Well, hold on a minute now.
I'm not.
You said that in this state of Washington, similar to here in Minnesota, that these officers are trained in de-escalation. We don't know. I know here that it's a 40-hour class that lasts 1 week. You go from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, and you get a little pin, and you're certified as part of the Minnesota Crisis Intervention Team. I would imagine that it's probably somewhat similar nationwide, that there's probably some sort of consistency. It's probably roughly 40 hours of training. So are you telling me that this guy had all that training, Joe, and he's not a mental health professional? He's not able to de-escalate everybody?
This is what I'm trying to say. We'll take a person having a bipolar episode who might not even be violent, okay, in the beginning, and then he just turns violent in the blink of an eye.
Or they could be off of their meds.
Well, right. No matter what you do, it might not work. Bipolar, schizophrenia, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, this is not just a person starting out having a bad day. This is a person committing a crime who is under the influence of dangerous drugs. Now, here's one thing that I can tell you with this. The people who train you in de-escalation, psychologists, crisis intervention team trainers, mental health professionals, what is the very first thing that these professionals, these mental health experts do when they go on a scene of a call and they can't reason with a person? They call the police.
Call the cops, yeah.
So if you can't fix it with all your years of field experience and research, how do you expect me to be able to fix it? Here's a better question. Is it my job to calm a person down? Am I legally required to calm a violent criminal down?
I have not read a statute that binds you to that. No.
So my job at that point is what? Enforcement, safety and enforcement. So if the situation turns violent, it's because I responded to a situation that was already violent. It's again, violence and force. It's the underlying premise of law enforcement. We are one step away from that on every single call, based on what the suspect does. Listen, Stu, it says it right there in the root of the term, law enforcement. So what Officer Nelson did here was attempt to enforce the law for safety purposes.
That's
and
racist.
Then it went violently wrong. I would love to see what they really have on, what they think they really have on this guy. Because, Stu, from where I'm sitting, it's starting to seem to me like this might just be a test run for the new law. Okay, and it seems to me that they're trying to do this because Officer Nelson has been involved in 2 prior shootings of suspects, and he has used force over his career. Imagine that, a police officer using force and using deadly force. Again, they paid the police to use force against criminals, all force, including deadly force.
So you're saying that, wait a minute. So you're saying that there's a possibility that Officer Nelson is not a cynical, bigoted, racist murderer? There's a possibility of that? I mean, he shot a...
I'm not even, like, his state of mind is irrelevant to me. I don't care if this guy, doesn't like minorities or does like minorities. Mm-hmm. What I'm looking at here is, what did he do? What did he see on scene? And this article, which is basically meant to be an indictment against Officer Nelson, actually reads like a vindication for him.
In the New York Times?
You know where I've seen that before?
No.
In the criminal complaint against Geronimo Yanez. It's a charging document. But when I read it, it almost seemed like a vindication for him. And that vindication was reflected when a jury found Officer Yanez not guilty. Mm-hmm. Okay? So this is where we're at with this. It looks to me like they're trying to use this case as trying to make this as a test case.
On the phone with us is Joe the cop, and he's weighing in on law enforcement issues with us every Friday. We're calling it Force Matrix Fridays, along with Freestyle Fridays. That'll be in the second segment every single week, brought to you by Johnson Jewelers. Make sure to visit them at johnsonjewelers.com. Joe, how do we get past this in America, because every single time a white cop uses force against a black guy now, or a black woman, or a minority of any kind that's black, brown, or whatever, or an immigrant, even if they're undocumented and here illegally, which doesn't matter anyways. But every single time a white guy with a badge and a gun uses force against somebody that doesn't look like him or her, there's going to be this uprising. There's going to be problems. They're going to be terminated. They're going to be cited for policy violations. They're going to lose everything that they ever worked for. They're going to face criminal prosecution. They're going to face civil rights violations by the DOJ. That's just where we are now. Do we ever get past this?
No, Stu. And once again, not only are we not going to get past this, but this is going to change this is basically going to change the face of law enforcement. Okay. And how did we get here? Okay. I'll say this again. And like I said, the last 2 weeks, the chiefs kept their heads down while their officers were being slandered by the media. Okay. Not only in some cases, they didn't keep their heads down. They went right to the media and gave them a story saying, well, this doesn't reflect our core values. This isn't who we are as an agency. I'm disappointed in the officer. And then cops want to turn around and blame the media. And I keep telling you, as I said for the last 2 weeks, we cannot blame the media when our own chiefs go to them and give them the stories to run with.
Right.
The media is always going to do what the media does. That's their job. If it leads, it leads. But this is self-sabotage, okay, among the profession. When we'll come back to George Floyd, thousands of cops across the country kneeled. And when they did that, they said that there was something to this narrative.
Yeah, they legitimized the platform. They legitimized the accusation that there's systemic racism amongst law enforcement officers and cops across the country. It's just not true. Right. I mean, you look at the numbers, and we've been over the numbers. You got to keep going over the numbers over and over again because people still seem to believe that this narrative is actually true, Joe. There are how many contacts by law enforcement officers in 1 minute? Break that down for us again. How many cops are there in the country? How many contacts are there? How about these fatal shootings? Where is the proof or any kind of form of evidence that there is this systemic racism that I keep getting told about?
It doesn't exist, Stu. It doesn't exist. And I'm going to tell you something else, too, since you do want to talk race here, all right? If I pull over 8 out of 10 black motorists, or if I pull over 10 black motorists, 8 of them are most likely to comply.
Right.
And go along with the program. It doesn't, this whole thing, it's like, well, blacks fear the police. Now, I haven't found that to be true. I especially have not found that to be true among the more senior citizen blacks, okay? Like the elderly blacks. If anything, they seem to want us.
Mm-hmm.
What you see on the news is a fringe element. I have not had those experiences where if I pull over 10 black motorists, all 10 of them want to argue or, don't want to comply. Because listen, if you don't comply, you're going to get arrested and charged.
Yeah.
Right. And it just does not work like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's like if I pull over a black motorist who complies for, say, a headlight violation, which is something that isn't even your fault. That could have happened 5 minutes beforehand. Okay. And this person gives me his or her license, registration, insurance, and
you're going to move on. They're going to get a ticket. They're
everything comes back okay.
They're going to have a great day.
But if they want to argue with me,
right?
If they want to argue with me and say you don't need the license, well, guess what? Now you are getting charged. And Stu, that very situation happened to me within a span of a half hour with 2 black female motorists. One complied and was given a warning. Not a warning, but it's an advisement of the light, to get that fixed whenever she gets a chance, and a handshake.
Yeah.
All right? The other one wanted to argue, and she got a citation, okay, because she got the citation because she initially was non-compliant. And, hey, listen, if you're not going to let me educate you, then the citation will have to educate you, and the judge will tell you the same thing.
That's so racist. Joe, I got to get out of here. I've got 15 seconds left. I'm up against a hard break. Thank you very much for being here. We're going to have you at Force Matrix Friday again next week. PC Radio, it just seems like this thing ran out of time so damn quick. I don't know. We'll see you on Monday. Yeah, we'll see you on Monday. PC Radio.
They're no Rocky Stucci, but they'll have to do. The low-budget answer for your deranged listening habits. Stu and Rich. Patriotically Correct Radio.